All right, so right now I'm going to show you different ways to get code from GitHub. So the first one is just simply going to the repository that you're interested in. In this case, we're looking at Computer Science Discoveries, period 1. If you're in period 3, then you would look at CSD-3. So I'm going to go ahead and get this code, and I'm going to go ahead and just say download zip. So what that's going to do is put a zip file onto my computer. Let's just save that. I'm going to grab that zip file from over here and pull it alongside. So this is CSD1 main. If I double click on it, I get a folder, and I can just literally pull this into here and just drop it onto the desktop. And I can just go ahead and, because I already have it here, it's asking me if I want to replace this file, each of the files. I'll just go ahead and do it because it's the same code. It doesn't really matter. Close. So here's my folder. Here's CS1 main, and I'm going to go ahead and remove this zip folder. You can see I don't even have to be signed in, and I can just download a zip file and get a bunch of code. All right. If I want to use some of these other options, I might have to sign in. So like this, for example, I can copy that and use either GitHub Desktop or something else to pull it down, like VS Code. So if I go to open with GitHub Desktop, I will need to sign in to GitHub first. So let me just go ahead and sign in. Okay. Now, if I'm over here and I'm signed in, I can now just go ahead and say open with GitHub Desktop. And it's asking me, do I want to open up GitHub Desktop exe? Yes, I do. And this is what it looks like when I first start. So it says clone a repository. That's exactly what I'm doing from this URL. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, I don't want it there. I want it. Let's just do this on the desktop. So CSD1 on the desktop. I'm going to remove. I don't think it did it in the right spot, but that's okay. It did do it. So let's go ahead and open this in Visual Studio Code. So here's the repository I'm working on in Visual Studio Code. I don't need to have this get started button open. So here's my CSD1. Here's my index HTML. You can see this is the code that we worked on before. And here's our projects folder. This is our index page that I was showing you from before. So these are all the files that are from our GitHub account, GitHub repository. So all of these files are all of these files. So this is the code that we had from earlier today. I'll just go ahead and maximize this window so you can see it. And this is the code that is currently on our GitHub repository. I am going to make this a little prettier. Okay, so now I'm going to try to use prettier to format this code just a little bit better, because you can see like there's some stuff that's a little bit off here and there, and I'm not really super happy with it. So I'm going to hit Control, Shift, and P. And up here, I'm going to search for Format Document because I recently used it. You can see that it's here. We can actually maybe even learn the shortcut Shift plus Alt plus F. Cool. And now it might ask you to pick what type of formatter you want to use. You want to use the prettier format. And what that does, as you can see, is it makes it a little prettier. little more organized, a little better. We can see that like our divs are our paragraphs are nicely tucked into our divs. Our divs are properly aligned. If I, have these paragraph tags, you can see that they match and so on and so forth. So those things are really good for us. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control S. That's going to save it. Now I have this thing here that says source control, but if I go back to GitHub Desktop, it is noting that I made this one change in index.html. This is a changed file. I'm going to say prettier. You have to have a comment of some kind. I'll just say prettier formatting. Before you can essentially push this back to GitHub. So commit to main and then push. So this pushes it back up to the remote. You have one local commit waiting to be pushed to GitHub. All right. So now that that's done, I can just minimize these guys and go back to GitHub. There's GitHub. And if we refresh this page, we can probably see that we did a commit to main 41 seconds ago, and it has our comment on it. Prettier formatting 1 minute ago. So that's how you can use GitHub Desktop to pull down and to push up your code. And you can actually, go back and forth pretty seamlessly between the website and GitHub Desktop. The big deal with GitHub Desktop is you need to be signed in to your account on GitHub in order for GitHub Desktop to know what account you're associated with. So I hope that helps.